You're at a party. Someone smiles, shakes your hand, and says their name. 2 seconds later, it's gone. You nod, pretend you heard it clearly, and continue the conversation, but inside your head, there's only one thought. Wait, what was their name? So you avoid saying it. You stall. You hope someone else says it first, and when they don't, you feel awkward, maybe even a little embarrassed. And here's the strange part. This doesn't just happen once in a while. It happens all the time. You meet someone and their name disappears almost instantly. Now you might think, maybe I just have a bad memory. But what if forgetting names isn't actually about memory at all? What if it's something deeper, something psychological about how your brain works? Most people believe that if you forget names easily, it means one thing: you're bad at remembering. But that explanation doesn't fully make sense, because the same person who forgets names can remember movie plots, random facts, childhood memories, and even embarrassing moments from years ago. So clearly, your brain can remember things. It just doesn't remember names. Which raises an interesting question. Why does the brain treat names differently? Why does it let them slip away so easily? And what does that say about the way we think, pay attention, and interact with people? To understand this, you need to see what's really happening inside your mind when you meet someone new. In that moment, your brain is not just listening, it's analyzing their face, judging their tone, thinking about what to say next, trying to make a good impression, and sometimes even worrying about how you're being perceived. Your brain is overloaded, and when it's overloaded, it starts prioritizing. It keeps what feels important and ignores what doesn't. And here's the key insight. Names don't feel important in that moment. When someone says, "Hi, I'm Ahmed," your brain doesn't treat it like critical information. Instead, it shifts focus to things like, what should I say next? Do I sound confident? Do they like me? Your attention turns inward, and the moment attention disappears, memory disappears with it. Think of your brain like a spotlight. Whatever it shines on gets remembered. Whatever it ignores fades away. During introductions, that spotlight is rarely on the name. It's on your thoughts, your feelings, and your self-awareness. So the name never really gets processed. And if something isn't processed deeply, it doesn't get stored. Think about the last time you forgot someone's name. It wasn't because you didn't hear it. You did hear it, but your brain didn't hold on to it, because in that moment, you weren't fully present. You were thinking ahead, planning your response, or maybe even judging yourself. This is what we can call internal focus, and people who forget names easily often live in this state. They're constantly thinking, analyzing, evaluating, and while that can be useful in many areas of life, it comes with a hidden cost. You miss small details from the outside world, like names. But attention is only part of the story. There's another reason your brain forgets names so easily. It comes down to meaning. Your brain remembers things that feel meaningful, emotional, or relevant. A random name doesn't have any of that, at least not yet. It's just a label. There's no story attached to it, no emotion, no importance. So your brain treats it like background noise. Now compare that to something like a funny joke, an emotional story, or a surprising fact. Those things stick because they mean something. Names usually don't, so they disappear. There's also another pattern behind this. Some people naturally focus more on impressions than details. They remember how someone made them feel, but not what they were called. They remember the vibe of the conversation, but not the specific words. This happens because their brain prioritizes emotional processing over factual information. And interestingly, this is not a weakness. In many cases, it's actually a strength. These people are often more intuitive. They pick up on tone, body language, and subtle social signals. They understand people on a deeper level, but in exchange, they forget small details like names. So forgetting names isn't a sign that something is wrong with you. It's a reflection of how your brain is wired to process the world. But there's still one more layer to this. Sometimes forgetting names is connected to social pressure. When you meet someone new, there's often a silent pressure to perform. You want to seem confident. You want to be interesting. You don't want to mess up. And that pressure creates noise inside your mind. The more noise there is, the less attention you have for simple things. So, ironically, the more you try to do well socially, the more likely you are to forget something basic, like a name. There's also a subtle reason why names disappear so quickly, and it has to do with how your brain filters importance. Every second, your brain is receiving more information than it can possibly store, so it uses a simple rule. If it doesn't seem useful right now, ignore it. During first meetings, your brain is focused on handling the moment. You're trying to avoid awkwardness. You're trying to respond correctly. You're trying to keep the conversation flowing. So your brain asks, will this help me right now? And strangely, a name doesn't feel immediately necessary. You can continue talking without using it, so your brain quietly lets it go. Now compare that to a question someone asks you. That feels urgent, so your brain holds on to it. That's why you remember what someone said, but not what they're called. There's also something called shallow processing. This happens when your brain hears something but doesn't engage with it. It's like background noise. Names often fall into this category. You hear them, but you don't really process them. And without processing, there's no memory. It's like writing on water. The moment passes and nothing remains. Your brain is also very good at remembering patterns, but names are usually random. They don't follow a sequence, they don't connect to anything, and the brain prefers connections. That's why you remember the guy who loves football, the girl who works in marketing, but not their names, because those descriptions have meaning. Names don't, unless you create that meaning. There's also the effect of familiarity. If you hear a name often, it becomes easier to remember. But unfamiliar names require more attention, and most people don't give that attention during introductions, so the name slips away. Another hidden reason is expectation. Your brain predicts what will matter later. If it thinks something won't be needed, it won't store it. So in casual meetings, your brain might assume this is temporary, no need to remember details. But later, when you see that person again, now the name suddenly matters, and it's gone. Repetition also plays a huge role. Your brain strengthens memory through repetition, but most names are only heard once. That's not enough, so they fade. But if you hear or use a name multiple times, it sticks. There's also the role of comfort. When you're relaxed, your brain absorbs more. When you're slightly anxious, your brain shifts focus. It starts managing emotions instead of storing information. So even a small amount of social pressure can reduce your ability to remember names. There's also something deeper. Your brain naturally prioritizes information related to you, your thoughts, your responses, your image. So during conversations, your focus is often on yourself, and because of that, details about the other person don't get enough attention. But once you become aware of all this, everything starts to make sense. Forgetting names isn't random, it follows patterns, and anything that follows patterns can be changed. Two people can meet the same person. One forgets the name instantly, the other remembers it easily. The difference isn't intelligence, it's attention, meaning, and intention. The person who remembers the name pays attention, they give it meaning, and they expect to use it again. That's it. Simple, but powerful. Think about the names you do remember. Friends, family, people you see often. Those names have meaning. They're connected to emotions and experiences, so your brain keeps them. This leads to an important realization. Memory is not about storing everything. It's about choosing what matters. So if you want to remember names, you don't need a better memory. You need to show your brain that it matters. Slow down when you hear a name. Even a small pause helps your brain register it. Create meaning. Connect the name to something familiar. Repeat it in your mind, or use it naturally in conversation. Shift your focus outward. Be curious about the person. When your attention moves outward, your awareness improves, and memory follows. Also, stop telling yourself that you're bad with names. That belief becomes a habit, and habits become reality. Instead, understand what's really happening. Your brain is not failing, it's just focusing on something else, and focus can be changed. So the next time someone tells you their name, don't rush past it. Pause, notice it, let it register, because that small moment is where memory begins. And the more you practice this, the more natural it becomes, until one day you're no longer the person who forgets names. You're the person who remembers them effortlessly. Not because your brain changed, but because your attention did. Because in the end, it's not about names, it's about awareness. And when you understand how your mind works, you stop fighting it and start working with it. And that's when everything changes.